So if you couldn't tell by the PowerPoint, I do exist. But I actually do have to, I really want to thank my sister, first of all. She really put this whole thing together. She always does. And she, if many of you don't know, she's really the reason I'm here. Because if you didn't know, like, we're 8 years apart, which is pretty remarkable in the first place. And one of the first stories my parents would tell us is whenever I would complain or if I'd ever get mad at my sister, they'd be like, you know, she's the reason you're here. And I'm like, that's not how it works, is it? And then they tell me that she would stay up every night outside of their door knocking, going, I want a baby brother, I want a baby, which is remarkable again, because here I am. So I really want to thank you for that, and my whole family. As for my dad, there really isn't enough to say. I refrained from like writing anything, because I really just wanted to see where this would take me, because I always talk about my dad with my friends, and that's actually the first place I wanted to start, because I mean, I think that everyone, you know, loves their parents more than anything in the world. Everyone, especially for a guy, your dad, it's one of those things, you know, as kids, me and my friends, it's always like, no, my dad's the best, no, my dad's the best. It's like a weird little competition you get into. But I've really never seen people who, he's not even their dad. And I'll have my friends coming up to me, like, whenever if something's going wrong, or if, you know, I got in an argument, or if there's any type of trouble, anything's wrong in my life, and I talk about it, and I talk about what's going on at home, and then I mention, you know, talking to my dad, they're always like, oh man, but this is what they call me, Babar proper. And they really, like, recognize the rock he's been in my life, and in all of our lives. I'm sure for everyone, you know, that's what kind of brings me to the next person in the life that I really feel I'm really in awe of how he's managed to do it, which is my wonderful and eccentric mother. Because that's the dichotomy that my friends always laugh about, is that they'll come home and, you know, they'll come over and there's something, me and my mom will be going off about something, you know, just some politics or anything. There's always me, and she'll find a way to argue with me to the end of anything, and my dad just comes in like this mediator of all things and then just calms everything down. And as far as my mom goes, you know, she's probably the greatest woman I know in the world, and everyone recognizes that, you know, especially young girls. She's like thank you for that. Anytime, you know, I have friends come over or something, they're always talking about, wow, like, your mom, she does this, like, especially, you know, in a world where it's still to this day so hard for, you know, women to do all the things that, you know, that they should be allowed to do. You know, it's not a fair world that we live in. And she really breaks that down, because I have friends who just come and I see a look on their face and they're like, how is she like a mother and, you know, going abroad and in Morocco, and then comes home and they talk about her on and on, but then I mean, she does everything, really, but then it comes back around and they're like, how does your dad handle this? And that speaks a lot to what I hope I can be as a man, and what I hope I grow into, because it's really remarkable the patience he has, like, not even just with, and not even in like a, you know, in a way like beyond just whether we're being annoying, whether the whole family's on his case. This is so far beyond that, because it extends to family, friends, people he doesn't even know, who will come over and just speak to. I can't even think of how to put it into words, because it literally doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that someone can be this patient and can be with you through everything and not, you know, overreact to things in the world, especially with me. This is like where it really cuts deep for me, because I'm someone who has, my friends will even speak to it, they're like, how did this happen? How did you get an English professor who's the most eccentric woman in the earth, and then this science guy who, as soon as he comes home from work, will just, you know, want to spend like an hour reading the newspaper and go to sleep. And how did these things combine and make them, you know, you and your sister are the most eccentric characters in the world, and through all of this, he's still there to create balance and support and a base for everything. If you look at the friends, I mean, I think the videos speak to it more than anything. I've gotten so much from this man. It's down to the way I walk. People are always saying when they like watch me and my dad walk next to each other, to his sense of humor. And I think the most remarkable thing about him by far has been his ability to teach me compassion and love. Growing up, you know, in being someone who's, you know, really first generation American, growing up with my friends, growing up in a world where there was a lot of, you know, it's like, you know, homophobia, and like, I grew up with my friends and I was always the most affectionate one, and I was never afraid to, you know, kiss my dad or hug him in public, and he was never afraid to do that. He never showed fear in the face of so much adversity, and this extends beyond this, but this is where it really relates for me, because to this day, I remember being like 10 years old and just getting picked on. And I'd go home to my dad and I'd just be like, you know, what do I say? What do I do with these things? And he goes, you know, all you can do is keep being a loving person, because if you let them break you down, that's when you're gonna lose. And he's like, trust me, if you stay this way, people will respond to it. And now if you ever saw me and my friends come together, I don't think you'd ever see a group of guys hugging and kissing as much as we do. And it's really unbelievable, because despite the fact that he can be so compassionate and so understanding, he's also taught me how to be stern, and how, you know, that there isn't, you know, BS with him either, you know. He's someone that if I get in trouble, he's not going to let me walk, but he's not going to wring it out so that I don't learn anything, because that's what he told me. I have a tattoo on my arm for him, really, because when I was graduating high school, there was a lot of, you know, I created a lot of my own problems. I've been given such a beautiful life, really, I couldn't ask for more. And through it all, even when I would, you know, I felt like I was just down and out, he would just say, you know what, shit happens. He wouldn't sugarcoat it. He wouldn't just be like, oh, it's gonna be okay. He said, you know what, you have a choice here, and you can decide to curl up in a ball and be ashes, or you can rise up, you can be a phoenix. And that's really stuck with me. And it's encapsulated really the way I try to live my life every day now, because you're always going to make mistakes, you know, and you're always going to, stuff's not going to go right. And half the time, more than half the time, it's not even you, you know, it's you just, some shit happens that's completely out of control. You know, people pass away, you lose people, and I've seen my friends, I've seen older people, younger people, I've seen them go off the deep end when these things happen. I've seen people not go on with life, and my dad just chugs through every single thing and always does it with a smile on his face, and always sees that there's something bigger in the picture. Because at the end of the day, all you can do is learn. And that, forget everything else I said. I feel like every time I say, no, the most remarkable thing, because there's always something more. This is definitely the most remarkable, is his commitment to keep learning at his age. I mean, you know, but, and it's gonna, I know it's gonna keep going until the end of time. And it's not to say, and I literally mean till the end of time, because his energy is gonna be here throughout. You know, it lives in all of us, not just me, not just my sister. And it's the ability to, he always said you have a tool belt. You know, he said people can come into your life, they can take your job, they can take your money, they can take your house, they can literally take everything from you, they can take your life, but they can't take what you've learned. And that's why you keep a tool belt, and you keep filling it in with little things of knowledge. And a lot of things don't stick with me. I'm a very stubborn person. I think I get that more from my mom. But it's a good thing, trust me, it's a good thing. I'm very strong in my convictions. But that's why I'm so thankful that I have both of them, really, because despite all of that, it's forced me, although I have a tough time taking things in and accepting things, I'm happy that's one thing that I've really accepted in my life. I just, you know, I want to make sure that sticks with anyone who's ever known my father, because he is the most he's the most influential man in my life. He's my hero, and I really love him to death.
I want to do that.